Think about the last time you sat completely still, not by choice, not resting, just stuck. Traffic piled up ahead of you, roads glazed with ice, a train delayed for the 4th time that week, and somewhere in the back of your mind, the quiet, exhausted thought, why does it have to be like this? Most of the world has answered that question with a shrug. Japan answered it with an engineering team and a deadline. These are 13 Japanese inventions so smart, so obviously necessary, that once you see them, the version of the world you're living in will feel like a rough draft. And the last one on this list, honestly, it might make you a little angry that it doesn't exist where you live yet. Here they are. 13 reasons the rest of the world needs to take notes. Think about the last time a snowstorm paralyzed your city. Not a blizzard, just a normal winter storm. Roads turned to ice, schools closed, emergency vehicles crawling, salt trucks out in force, coating everything in a gray chemical slush. Japan looked at that sequence of events and decided it was optional. In regions like Niigata and Toyama, some of the snowiest inhabited places on Earth, roads are embedded with a network of heating pipes fed by geothermal groundwater. The system activates automatically when sensors detect freezing temperatures, and the snow simply never accumulates. No plows, no salt, no black ice, no accidents caused by a road treatment that itself makes roads slippery. The infrastructure pays for itself within a few years through reduced accident costs and emergency response deployments. Meanwhile, in cities that get far less snow, governments are still reacting to winter like it's a surprise. Japan built a road that argues back. Most vending machines take your money and give you something back. That's the transaction, and for most countries, that's where the relationship ends. Japan has approximately 5.5 million vending machines, one for every 23 people. And they have quietly transformed these machines into social infrastructure. During natural disasters, specific vending machines in Japan's network automatically shift to dispensing products for free. The machines are registered with local emergency management systems, and when a disaster signal is triggered, the dispensing mechanism unlocks. Survivors of earthquakes and typhoons have walked out of rubble to find a cold drink waiting for them at no charge. Some machines are also equipped with public alert screens and emergency phone charging ports. The vending machine, which most of the world treats as a glorified cupboard with a coin slot, has been reimagined in Japan as a node in a public safety network. That's the difference between building products and building systems. Rush hour in most cities is a zero-sum game. There are only so many lanes, and every car using one is a car someone else can't. Tokyo's Metropolitan Expressway looked at that constraint and decided the lanes themselves didn't have to be permanent. Several sections of the expressway run reversible lane systems, where the direction of travel on a central lane or series of lanes shifts depending on time of day. In the morning, extra lanes push inbound commuters toward the city core. In the evening, those same lanes flip and carry traffic back out. The system is managed through a network of overhead signals and physical barriers operated by traffic control staff, and it effectively increases road capacity during peak hours without a single meter of new construction. The land is the same. The road is the same. Only the logic changes. Most cities are still debating whether to widen highways. Japan just made the highway smarter. Public restrooms have a reputation I think most of us have simply accepted as permanent, dim, ambiguous, unsettling. You push open a door and you're making a small act of faith. Tokyo flipped that equation entirely with its transparent public toilet project, launched in the Shibuya district, with designs by architects including Shigeru Ban. The toilets are housed in frosted glass that appears fully transparent when unoccupied. You can see inside from outside, confirming the space is clean and empty before you commit to entering. The moment the door locks, the glass instantly frosts opaque, providing complete privacy. The result is a facility you can trust before you enter it, not one you evaluate nervously once you're inside. Cleanliness rates went up sharply because the transparency creates social accountability. People treat a space differently when they know the outside world can see it's empty and see it's clean. One architectural decision eliminated the single biggest psychological barrier to using a public restroom. The rest of the world is still working with opaque doors and optimism. Before we go further, if this kind of content is landing for you, take 2 seconds and hit the like button. It genuinely helps more people find this video, and the next several items on this list get considerably more impressive. Subscribing means you'll catch everything we put out. And we don't waste your time. Okay. Back to Japan, making the rest of us look slow. If you've spent any time in a modern city, you know that loneliness and density are not opposites. They coexist, sometimes in the same apartment building. Japan faces one of the world's most documented loneliness crises, driven by long working hours, aging demographics, and the particular isolation of urban high-rise life. The country's response was not a public service announcement, it was cat cafes. And that sounds light, but the logic behind them is genuinely sophisticated. Cat cafes, which originated in Taiwan but exploded across Japan in the 2000s, function as licensed social spaces where people pay a modest hourly fee to sit in a calm environment with animals trained for public interaction. Studies conducted by Japanese researchers found measurable reductions in cortisol levels, the primary stress hormone, after even a 30-minute visit. The economic model sustains itself, requiring no government subsidy. It addressed a public health problem with a private market solution that people actually wanted to use. Now, the concept has spread to dog cafes, rabbit cafes, owl cafes, and hedgehog cafes across Japan. The country looked at urban loneliness and didn't write a policy paper. It opened a door and let something warm walk through. Every day in Japan, millions of bento boxes travel hundreds of kilometers at extraordinary speed. Ekiben, station bento, is a cultural institution, but the logistics infrastructure behind it is what deserves a second look. Japan's railway catering system operates on some of the tightest food freshness windows in the world, with regional bentos produced locally, loaded onto Shinkansen bullet trains, and sold during journeys that may last only 90 minutes. What makes this remarkable is the zero-waste architecture designed around it. Producers operate on precise demand forecasting models calibrated to passenger load data from Japan Railways, meaning overproduction is minimized structurally, not through after-the-fact discounting. Leftover inventory is composted or redirected to food banks through partnerships established at the prefectural level. The result is a freshly made, regionally specific meal available at over 200 stations across Japan, produced with a food waste rate significantly lower than equivalent food service operations in Europe or North America. The Shinkansen didn't just move people faster, it made the food system that runs alongside it smarter too. The ground moves in Japan. That's not a metaphor. Japan experiences approximately 1,500 earthquakes per year, including major seismic events that would be generational disasters in most countries. The engineering response to this is visible in the skylines of Tokyo and Osaka if you know what to look for. Modern high-rise buildings in Japan use tuned mass dampers. Enormous pendulums or hydraulic counterweights suspended inside the upper floors of skyscrapers. When seismic waves cause a building to sway, the damper swings in the opposite direction, neutralizing the oscillation like a metronome being held steady by a second hand. The Taipei 101 Tower made this famous internationally, but the technology was pioneered and refined extensively in Japan. The Shinjuku Park Tower and dozens of other Tokyo skyscrapers use dampers weighing hundreds of tons that move in near silence to keep the structure stable. Japan didn't figure out how to build in earthquake zones. It figured out how to build buildings that fight back against earthquakes. That distinction has saved thousands of lives. There is a gap between the train and the platform edge. On every rail system in the world, that gap exists, and on most of them, it is simply accepted. A warning painted on the floor, an announcement over the speakers, and the quiet understanding that some passengers, particularly wheelchair users, elderly riders, and people with strollers, are simply on their own. Japan engineered its way out of that acceptance. On certain lines operated by Tokyo Metro and JR East, retractable platform gap fillers extend automatically from the platform edge when a train arrives, bridging the space between carriage and station floor to create a near seamless surface. The extension is triggered by the train's docking position, requires no staff intervention, and retracts cleanly before the train departs. The cost of the system is recouped quickly in reduced boarding assistance requirements and incident reduction. What is quietly revolutionary here is the philosophy. Japan didn't put up a sign, it removed the gap. Those are fundamentally different ideas about whose problem it is to solve. Inside Japanese hospitals, something quiet and slightly uncanny happens during patient transfers. Instead of orderlies manually wheeling beds through corridors, a process that requires coordination, physical labor, and creates bottlenecks near elevators. Some advanced Japanese medical facilities use automatically guided vehicle systems, or AGVs, adapted specifically for hospital beds. These are robotic transport units embedded beneath or attached to beds that navigate hospital corridors using floor sensors and pre-programmed routing. They travel autonomously, yield to foot traffic, and can be summoned or redirected through the hospital's central management system. The result is that nursing staff are freed from one of the most physically demanding and time-consuming non-medical tasks in hospital operations. Patient transfer time drops, corridor congestion drops, and staff fatigue, which is one of the most documented contributors to medical error, decreases. Japan looked at the hospital bed, a piece of equipment that has been manually pushed since the 19th century, and asked if it still needed to be. At night, Japan's roads communicate, not metaphorically, in a literal, photonic sense. Solar power. LED road studs, embedded into road surfaces across multiple Japanese prefectures, activate at dusk and provide dynamic lane guidance, especially on rural roads where lighting infrastructure is minimal or absent. Some systems are responsive. They brighten when a vehicle approaches and dim afterward, reducing energy consumption while maximizing visibility precisely when it matters. In areas prone to fog or rain, the embedded lighting has reduced nighttime single-vehicle accidents by double-digit percentages on routes where it's been installed. The technology is not unique to Japan. There are installations in the Netherlands and UK, but Japan's integration of it into a cohesive rural road safety strategy, combined with solar independence, makes it a model. The road doesn't just exist passively beneath your tires. In Japan, it watches the conditions and tries to keep you alive. If you've ever driven past a major highway and braced for the wall of noise, that low, relentless roar of traffic that bleeds into neighborhoods, disrupts sleep, and degrades quality of life for millions of residents, you've encountered a problem most countries have addressed with a concrete barrier and considered the matter closed. Japan addressed it and then kept going. Japanese acoustic barrier technology includes not just sound absorption panels that are measurably more effective than concrete, but systems that incorporate integrated vertical greenery. Plants grown directly into the barrier structure, which adds a secondary noise diffusion layer while simultaneously improving air quality and reducing the urban heat island effect along highway corridors. Some installations along the Tomei and Chuo expressways have transformed what would otherwise be an industrial scar in the landscape into something closer to a living wall. Function didn't compete with environmental consideration. Japan made them the same thing. Coastal and mountainous regions of Japan face a contradiction that's becoming a global problem: abundant atmospheric moisture and inadequate freshwater infrastructure in remote areas. Japan's response in certain high-altitude and coastal zones was fog collection, a passive water harvesting technology using mesh panels installed on elevated terrain that intercept fog and condense it into water, which flows by gravity into storage tanks. Individual collection panels can yield dozens of liters per day in the right conditions, and array installations have supplied drinking water to remote communities that would otherwise require expensive pipeline infrastructure. The technology exists in other countries. Morocco's fog collectors are well documented, but Japan's integration of fog collection into broader municipal resilience planning, particularly in post-disaster scenarios, represents a maturity of thinking that most infrastructure systems don't reach. Water doesn't just fall from the sky in Japan. Sometimes it drifts past horizontally, and Japan built a net for it. And this last one. This is the one that will quietly infuriate you, not because it's outlandish, but because it's so sensible. The roads you drive on now are failing slowly and invisibly. Potholes don't appear overnight. They develop through a progression of microfractures, subsurface moisture damage, and thermal stress that is invisible to the naked eye, until the road surface finally collapses. Most road maintenance systems in the world operate reactively. A pothole appears, someone reports it, a crew is dispatched. Japan developed a different model. Specialized maintenance vehicles equipped with ground-penetrating radar and AI-assisted analysis software drive regular patrol routes, scanning road surfaces for subsurface anomalies before they become visible failures. The system identifies deterioration at the stage where repair costs a fraction of what they would cost after a collapse. The AI component improves with each scan, building predictive models of road degradation based on traffic load, weather data, and surface material age. This is not a concept vehicle or a pilot program in one prefecture. It is operational on highways managed by Nippon Expressway Company, better known as NEXCO. The road system in Japan isn't just maintained, it is watched, predicted, and treated before it breaks. That's the difference between infrastructure as a cost and infrastructure as an investment. And it might be the most important idea on this entire list. Japan doesn't do any of this because it has unlimited resources. It does it because somewhere in the national design culture, there is a refusal to accept that inconvenience, danger, or inefficiency is just the natural state of things. Every item on this list started with someone asking whether the problem actually had to exist. That question, does this problem actually have to exist, is one of the most powerful engineering prompts ever conceived, and Japan asks it constantly. If this list gave you something to think about, hit the like button and subscribe. We put out content like this regularly, and the next video is already worth your time. We'll see you there.